Okay, everybody, so recently I took a trip to our Goodwill store again, just to see what kind of stuff they had on the shelves along where the electronics are and everything. And I happened to come across this cool device right here. This is a Radio Shack foreign travel voltage converter, rated for 1600 watts. It converts basically electricity across the pond, if you want to call it that, from 240 volts to 120 volts. And this is actually really cool because back when I was a kid, my mom actually had an exact device like this, and I always found it kind of cool, just the way it looked and everything. I don't know if she still has it today, or if she does still have it, I don't know where it is. So I came across this and I was like, oh wow, I remember this thing. And the funny thing was, I was actually thinking about this device maybe like a month or so before I happened to find another one of these. And really, it's pretty awesome. It works basically, so your the US plug will fit in the bottom there, and then the three, if you want to call them buttons there on top, are basically what kind of plug you're going to plug this into, depending on what country you're in, which is really cool. So there is no year on this box anywhere that I could find. So I guess considering when I first saw one of these devices, I'm going to guess this is from the early 1990s. And what's actually kind of cool is, for those of you who have seen the movie Home Alone, like towards the beginning when they're in the parents' bedroom and Peter is asking Kate about picking up a voltage adapter, this could very well be what he was talking about. So it's kind of cool to see that in that regard, huh? So basically, again, Radio Shack, so it's from a while ago, obviously. And on the side here, it shows you the kind of plugs that it can use. If you want, there's a little bit of a mark there, but maybe you can read that. And I'll read the back portion here for you. Basically, I'll try to read the top there. It says, for use only with 110, 120 volt heating type appliances up to 1600 watts. And you can read the rest there. So blow dryers, curling irons. I don't know what immersion heaters are. Are those like heaters you put in a fish tank to warm the water? I don't know. Food bottle warmers, hot pots, and things like that. If you want to go ahead and read that, pause the video. All right, so let's go ahead and take it out, and we'll also take a look at where's the front? Here we go. We'll take a look at what different parts of the instruction manual look like. And just to start, here's the device right here. You can see there's your plug selectors right up there. Europe, Middle East, England, Africa, and Australia, Philippines. And here's the front. Your US plug would go right inside here. It is polarized, as you can see. And this is a reset button. I'm assuming this is a circuit breaker where if you use a device that exceeds the wattage, this eventually pops out. You unplug your device and push it back in, and it's good to go. And then there's these two things here on the side, which I'll get to in a bit. And here are your prongs right here. Now I want to show you something here on this label here, and also something on the manual. So basically, the manual is showing here, basically, I guess, how long you should use the device depending on the kind of wattage that your appliance pulls. And, you less than 1600 watts, this and that. It explains how to pull the prongs out, but I'll get to that in the video. I'll show it to you. Now, here's something interesting. It says you can use this device. I can't read the camera very well. Hold on. There we go. You can use the converter continuously depending on the power rating of the appliance in use. So it's showing you can do that, but what's strange is that says that, all right? But if I go to this label on the device here, there we go, focus. It says not for continuous use. So which is it? You have like contradicting things here, which is kind of strange. And but I guess just use common sense. I mean, I guess that makes the most sense, right? And I'm not going to go over this whole thing here, but basically, Australia, New Zealand, England, Hong Kong, all the different places. Kind of cool. All right, so then let me see here. And this just shows like the different outlet types and this and that, and a whole bunch of number charts, which I'm not going to get into in this video, but shows you basically what you can do. There's the input and output. You guys like to see that? Kind of cool. All right, so let me go ahead and show you exactly how you operate this device, for lack of a better term. It's kind of cool, and I thought it was really cool when I was a kid. And here's the device. Basically, you can see it up close a little bit better. So yeah, Radio Shack, 1600 watts. And again, your US plug would go right here. And you can see there's a good amount of vents along the side and the front of the device. I'm assuming it gives off, well, I'm not going to say a lot, but obviously some heat while it's doing its voltage conversion. I'm sure it needs to dissipate that, obviously. So there's your country selections once again. And on the back here are your prongs for each button here. This prong up top comes into play too, and I'll tell you how it does in a little bit. So basically, the way it works is, I know we used to take trips to Italy back when, or I haven't gone in a long time, and this obviously was the prong that you would use for those plugs there. So what you do with this one is, it says for this one, you want to take a flat blade screwdriver and push in till it goes all the way, I guess because of how deep this goes in, but obviously I have that on me, but I can show you another way you can do it with your hands. So let's say you were in Italy, like I said, and you had to use this plug here. So you simply just push it in like that, okay? Then if you look on the other side, you can see the prongs popped out. And then in this case, I'm going to take my hand, and if you just pull it out all the way, there's these two plastic tabs up the top and bottom here that will pop out and lock it into place. You should be able to hear that happen. There we go, just like that. So now you can see this holds it in place. So these two prongs go into the plug there, and then connect it, and then there's your power to use over there. I don't quite, I'm assuming this plug goes in deeper than other, let me say that again. I think these outlets maybe have more depth than others because of how much these prongs go out and how far this plastic piece even comes out. Admittedly, the last time I used a plug in Italy was legit 25 years ago, so I've long forgotten exactly how it works. So I'm guessing maybe this part goes in here, and in case the plug isn't all the way in, this acts as like insulation or something. So that way, if it's like, out like this, you don't get a shock, especially with 240 volts. You don't want that. Yeah, so that pops inside there, okay? And then these two plastic pieces, like I said, hold it in place to keep the plug from recessing back in if we can try to plug it in. So that's kind of cool for the Europe one. Right, so now when you want to put it back in, you just depress these two things on top and bottom and push in. There you go. It goes right, goes right back to the way it was. So that's kind of cool. Okay, now for these two buttons, this actually works in an interesting way. So as of right now, if I try to push in this one, I can't do it. And that's because there's these two locking things on the side. That's what these are for here. So if you want to move this one, you want to push both of these down, okay? And now you can push in the one for England, Africa. And this one won't have plastic things in the back. It'll just bottom out. You'll feel it bottom out, just like that. And now you have the hot and neutral prongs for the, we'll go with the English plug. Why not, okay? Now the only thing is, if you notice, the way it currently is, if you try to plug this in, these may get pushed back in. So the way that you go fix that is you push it back all the way in, and then you lock it again by pushing both of these up. Okay, just like that. And now you can see they won't go back in. So that's how you secure it out if you want to use this type of plug. Now, if you remember, however, there was one other prong I said that comes into play, and that would be this one up top here. Excuse me. This prong here would actually be for the ground, also known as earth, as they actually call it over there. And the reason why this prong must be used, I can tell you why. I learned a lot about English plugs back in 2014 when I watched a Tom Scott video about it. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and link that video in the description because it's a pretty cool video. You should definitely give it a watch. So the way it works is for plugs in England, where the hot and neutral prongs go into, there are actually shutters that block off the holes that prevent these prongs from going into there. And the reason why that's done is because, like Tom will say, it's to prevent, like, let's say you have a child and he has some kind of metal device or even just any kind of toy. You don't want him putting that into the holes because that can give him a very nasty shock. And at 240 volts, that could definitely be possibly deadly. Even 120 is not good, but 240 is like twice as bad, literally. So then the way it works is the ground prong here, if you notice, it sticks out just a little bit more than the hot and neutral ones do, okay? So what happens is when this prong goes into the outlet, it'll actually lift up the shutters, and then the whole plug can go into the outlet perfectly, because with the ground prong in there, now it has lifted the shutters up and you can connect it. And that's how you connect it to a plug in England. Kind of cool, huh? So that's basically how it would work. So yeah, so it is pretty interesting how this prong comes into play even when something isn't grounded. The only thing is, in Tom's video, he mentioned about how there's insulation here halfway on the prongs where most of their plugs. That's not the case on here, so if you use this kind of plug, you'd have to be very careful to make sure you don't touch that metal if it's possibly halfway in there. That'd be a very bad shock. And as a matter of fact, let me show you a US plug that's grounded, actually. If you notice this one here, it's kind of the same principle. You can see the ground prong on the bottom sticks out just a little bit more than the hot and neutral prongs do. So you can kind of see how even with the US plug, the ground prong will connect first before the hot and neutral do. So it's kind of a cool safety device, if you want to call it that. Definitely a similar device, without a doubt. Let me get the monopod out of the way here. Okay, so now, same thing, if you want to put this back, because you're not using it anymore, put away the ground prong, and then you have to unlock these again, and simply push it back in. There you go. Kind of cool. Now, for the bottom one, same thing. Both these lock sliders are on the bottom, so if you try to push it in, nothing happens. So you need to push both these up. And now for Australia and the Philippines, same principle. Push it out, or push it in rather. Let it here bottom out, like that. Okay. Then put both these down. And now you have prongs that are very similar to US prongs, as you notice, but definitely not the same kind of voltage. And same thing with those things, both those things pointed down. You can see how it won't go back in. And these are actually turnable, because if you use the, let me look at the box here. Yeah, so for Australia and New Zealand, so basically, well, let me start it with this way. The way these prongs currently are, well, for the most part, straight up and down, that would be for like Thailand or the Philippines, okay? Now, if you want to do Australia and New Zealand, you simply turn the prongs like this, and that might be a bit much, but you would get the, there we go, that looks better, you get the idea. And now, with the prongs turned like that, you can use the plugs in Australia and New Zealand. So you can kind of see why this is a really cool device, because it has a lot of versatility, many different outlets that you can use for volt conversion. And yeah, it's a really fascinating device. And I know when I was a kid, I used to love playing with this, like moving the prongs in and out, this and that. I was a kid who loved mechanical stuff and always had to like play with something. You know what I'm saying? Play with something safely. Let me put that in the video. Play with something safely. And I would just always, you know, basically just have to see. Basically, I was basically like Dee Dee of Dexter's Laboratory. Like, ooh, what does this button do? You know what I'm saying? So I kind of had stuff like that, if you want to call it that. Let me just fix this oil can here. Okay. And then same thing as before, if you want to put this back in, because you're not using it. Can I get these straight again? There we go. Close enough. If you're done using this, push these up, push it in, and there you go. Everything back and retracted when you're not using it. Now, let's say, for example, you wanted to store this, but you didn't want possibly anything causing these things to get to push these buttons in. There was actually kind of a clever thing you could do here. You see how these are both up? If you put one up and one down, okay, now you can see neither of them can get pushed in. So it's kind of a cool thing. Maybe not like the most important thing ever, but I mean, it's kind of cool that it has that kind of function, you know, if that makes sense. Yeah, so there you guys go. That's a pretty cool device, huh? A vintage voltage adapter for whenever you go on trips to different countries. And there you guys go. There's basically your vintage Radio Shack voltage converter. Again, this is just a really cool device that I very much remember, like I said, from when I was a kid, seeing my mom have it, and I was like, oh, what's this thing? This thing looks really cool. And it was just kind of cool to find one of these things again. I don't quite know. I mean, granted, I do foreign travel almost never, so I don't quite know if they still make things like these today, but I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't. But I mean, regardless, it's definitely like a pretty cool thing here. One thing I should mention on the back label here is, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I mentioned about the don't use for continuous use. Can I get that to focus? Moving back a little bit. There we go. It says, like, you know, don't use battery chargers, contact lens disinfector, and auto start shut off irons. I don't know. Like maybe it doesn't want things that turn on and off on their own or stuff, or because, you know, battery chargers, you know, the more the battery is charged, the less power it takes. Maybe that's something to do with it. But kind of cool how it says, like, the manual says you can use this continuously, but this says don't use it continuously. So, who knows? Just like I said, just use common sense. Anyway, there you guys go. So, pretty cool vintage device to see yet again, and just kind of cool. I found it. It's will it ever come in handy? I don't know, but just kind of cool to have, especially for something that I remember from when I was a kid. Pretty cool thing, and Radio Shack, which kind of holds a different thing nowadays since Radio Shack is no more, and it's just kind of cool that to see something like this. And there you guys go. So a little device from back when, and I thought maybe you'd find it kind of cool, and pretty cool to find it a cool thing at Goodwill once again. Thank you very much for watching, and take care.